Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, and it is Women and Business Time. I am really excited today because my guest is Charity Gibson. She is a total badass woman of promo, and she runs a podcast by the same name. And I'm really excited to talk to her about mentoring and the podcast and anything else we can come up with. I think for those of you that were watching last week that the internet might behave today, but it might not. We're going to try it and see what happens. It has been upgraded, so it should behave, but you know, me and the internet, it's entirely possible that things could go weird. So stick with me, please, either way. But you don't want to listen to me. You want to hear from Charity. So I'll tell you a little bit about her first. Charity Gibson is the National Account Coordinator for Peerless Umbrella, owner of Green Banana Social, a founding chef and executive committee member of Industry 501c3 Promo Kitchen, and the host of the Badass Women of Promo podcast. She started her career on the distributor side of the promotional products and decorated apparel industry and moved to the supplier side of things in 2015. She is most well known for her heavy engagement on social media, educational sessions and videos, mentorship, and creativity. And I have listened to the Badass Women of Promo podcast, at least a few of them. And if you haven't been there yet, you should go listen. But let's pop Charity in. Hi, Charity. Thanks for being here.
How are you? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to make new friends. And
I know. It's so fun. I love that. Well, I mean, honestly, that was one of the reasons that I started this, was because I was embarking on my own business and I was asking questions of people in the industry and women who own businesses. And I was like, other people could learn from this too. So I should put it online.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
So fun how that happens.
Well, it was something I'd been thinking about for a while. And with the Women in Garment Decoration group and everything, I knew there were people out there who were looking for information like this. And this is not supposed to be about me, but somehow. And so I thought it was a good thing. But I wanted to start off talking to you about mentoring, because that's something that's really important to me. And I know that's something that's big with Promo Kitchen. So I'm going to actually back up just a step first. Tell me what Promo Kitchen is, because I know about Promo Kitchen, but I don't know about Promo Kitchen, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. I know about Promo Kitchen and I don't really know about Promo Kitchen. Some days people are like, what is it? I'm like, we like do things and stuff. So promokitchen.org is our website, and we started in 2010. If you've heard the names Mark Graham, Danny Rosen, Bobby Lehue, a couple of names in promo that just wanted to do something bigger than themselves. And they noticed a number of people asking questions, much like yourself. They just had a passion for helping people and said, we want to be able to answer some of these questions that are in the industry, because when we help the foundational questions get answered more quickly, more effectively, we can grow faster. And I love that Danny Rosen says, if you want to go far, go alone. Or I'm sorry, if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. And so that's exactly what Promo Kitchen is. It's just a group of people that are very forward thinking in the industry, that weren't afraid to get in trouble by opening our mouths and saying things that maybe be a little controversial. And then just a group of people that have a passion for helping other people. And so they kind of got it started. And I came in right, in the early stages, one of the first few chefs, and was in charge of the social media. But our pillars are mentorship and education. So everything that we do is geared towards helping other people grow. And we do ask, that we have a mentorship program, so you can join in on that. There's a few qualifications. You've been in the industry at least a little bit, so you kind of have a little bit of a grasp. We're not just giving out, free business consultation to everybody. We want to make sure that you're getting quality. So, a couple years in the industry, and really that's it. It's just geared around helping, sharing information for free, making sure that we're doing blog posts and podcasts. And so if you get to promokitchen.org, there are now 10 years of archives of cutting edge information, stories, podcasts about decoration, operations, marketing, social media, anything you could think of or want or need. It's there. And if it's not, you can ask us and maybe we'll create it for you. So.
Well, I did go and see that there was a lot of stuff. I'm going to pop the URL back up again just because I think it's definitely worth checking it out if you haven't been there. There's a ton of information there. But the one thing about the mentor program that I wanted to ask you about is it's something that I've been working with the Women in Garment Decoration group a little bit to try to encourage. And one of the comments that I get a lot, which is a perfectly valid comment, but I'm not quite sure how to combat it, I guess, is that was harder to say than you would think, is I don't have time, or I can't invest that much right now. I'm trying to get my own business going. I'm trying to keep my own business running. So do you hear comments like that, or have you pretty much screened those people out by the time they get to pushing the button to say, I want to be a mentor?
No, and a lot of people have this conversation with me and they say, I want to be a mentor. I don't know what it takes. I'm afraid it's going to take too long. Like you said, I don't have the time to invest. And I guess my answer is always, I personally don't feel that you don't have the time to not invest, if that makes sense. Because if you're if you're coming up against, a full schedule, scheduling issues, whatever, oftentimes those are operational inefficiencies. And somebody that is a mentor can come into your life and it's only an hour a month. I mean, it's whatever you want it to be. If you have more time, you're mentor and you set those guidelines. So we don't have like a strict curriculum that you have to follow or anything like that. If you want guidelines, we can give you guidelines. Cool. Yeah, it's kind of just whatever works for you. When I do mentorship, I do have a kind of a program that I run because I need personally the accountability because I'm the ADHD squirrel person. So I need it for me. I like to say an hour a month or an hour every other week. And then I have a set, this is what we're going to talk about. Where do you see yourself in 1, 3, and 5 years? Where are you now? What is it going to take to get there? We build the steps backwards, and then we take those steps and check in every 2 weeks, every month to see if the progress that we're making is bringing us closer to the goals and helping us actually get those things accomplished. And if it's not, we reevaluate and tweak and, replan. But I think that's the biggest thing for me, is helping people understand just how beneficial a mentor is. So that's one. Two, I know a lot of people sometimes say that they don't know if they're qualified to be a mentor because they only have X number of years experience. Yeah, like, what do I have to give? I say that all the time, like, who wants to hear my story? Like, who cares? There's so many people that are so much more successful than me, and it's true. But at the same time, everybody starts out at a level 1. I'm at year 20 in the industry, so I'm on level 20. I have so many things figured out. There are 20 billion things more that I have no clue about, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. I have so far to go, but I also know that somebody starting out could absolutely benefit from some of the experiences, and maybe something that I do could help them save a little time. So even if you don't think you're qualified, I full-heartedly believe in the lift as you climb mentality, that even though you're not where you want to be yet, somebody is really working hard to get where you are. And if you can help them get where they want to be, I don't think there's anything bad there. So even if it's baby steps, an hour a month is all you've got to give. I think it pays dividends when you get with the right mentor. And that's where we, with Promo Kitchen, Johanna and Russell Bird, and now Carson Ronchetto are 3 people that are spearheading the mentorship program now. They've come up with some really great qualifying questions and really can help get the right people paired with the right people so we can make sure we're delivering results. So it's come a long way.
That's really important, is making sure. And I like that it's only, I think a lot of people, when they think about being a mentor, they think that it's like this huge commitment of time where you're going to be answering questions and emails and texts. And, it's just going to be like this full on, like, intensive teaching program. And it doesn't have to be that way to be effective, seems to be what you're saying from your experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think if we really look at the relationships that we have in a lot of things, we mentor people in many different ways. And even if you don't have the time, even if it's an hour a month and you're saying, I just can't do that, think about how you can share your skill set. Like what you said when you started this whole thing, is that you knew that you were asking questions. Someone out there has the same questions too. And how cool is it that you can go further faster and help other people do that too, just by finding out some information and then being willing to reshare it so that others can glean from that as well. And so this is mentorship, in a way, shape, or form. So whether it's a blog or a video. Yeah.
Thank you. Now I feel really good about myself.
You are. You're event. You got it. You're doing it right now. Look at that. You didn't even know.
Who knew?
Who knew?
But I like the whole, I like the idea too of the concept of mentors don't have to be just one-on-one. I'm going to sit across from you and talk to you about what you need or what I know. You can mentor people in lots of ways. I love that concept.
Absolutely.
That's a really, really, really good thing. Oh, I like this. Sandy Jo is here and she says mentoring and teaching are two different things. And I agree with that. I think that's true. That mentoring is not necessarily teaching as much as it is support, I guess, is maybe how I would put it. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think that sounds fair. I also think that oftentimes teaching is singular directional. I don't know how to say solo directional. So it's more of a broadcast. So I think that in this case, where you're giving people the opportunity to ask questions and really be involved with it, that's where I see the biggest difference. I see teaching as like me standing up in front of a classroom and laying out like edicts, and it doesn't have to be like that either. That's not what teaching is.
Curriculum.
The curriculum, yeah. And I mean, it doesn't have to be that formal either, but I think when you start bringing the interactivity into it and you start building those relationships, everybody that's watching this, my Instagram handle's right there. You can message me after this with questions and things like that. And that's where it really kind of takes things to the next level and becomes just such an engagement. When the engagement comes in, I think that's where you go from teaching to mentoring for sure.
Definitely. I agree with you. And we do have a couple here. Cindy says, welcome, Charity. So she's glad to see you. And Gusta from Sweden is here. I love it when Gusta shows up. We're international. I always feel so important.
Right? Well, so funny. So my family, I am from the Svensson clan. I'm actually Swedish. So my grandparents came directly from Sweden. So every time I see him show up, I get a little warmth in my heart. One day I will make it there and actually get to hang, but so fun.
And
thank you.
James here from Houston. So this is cool. We're getting some people checking in. I like that. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you about Promo Kitchen, because I knew of Jay Bassell. Is he a chef?
Yep. Jay Bassell is a chef. Also Marshall Atkinson. We've got two really great decorators on the chef game right now.
And I know both of them. I know Marshall better than I know Jay, but I know both of them. But I went and looked because I started reading more about the organization and I went, oh, this looks really cool. Apparently, you aren't even taking sous chefs right now. Are you guys at the moment?
Well, so yes and no. We are kind of in a weird stasis point with Promo Kitchen because we do have our promo chat committee. We've got an editorial committee and a mixer committee. And so we're kind of at just being the beginning of the year, we're kind of trying to get our ducks in a row. So always continue to check. You can just reach out to any chef directly too, and we can it's a little bit more personal than the website. And we can kind of tell you where you are. If you have a skill set, we can definitely plug you in. And we are always taking editorial content, not to sell. So it's really not about, sales pitches. It's about like what you're doing here, educational stuff. And that we can always post on the website. So we want people to get involved, whether it's, volunteering, different things like that. And then sous chefs, yes, that's the way that we kind of bring people in and let them quote unquote earn their apron, so to speak, instead of just the popularity contest. Hey, you're cool, come be a chef, which is how I got in. Not because I'm cool, but they're like, we're going to tell you you're cool so you can come to our social media. Just kidding. That's not really. No, but for a while we didn't really have a great vetting process, and now we have some great doers. So you're seeing Promo Kitchen 2.0 right now with new leadership. Some of our OG chefs have kind of stepped back and let the new kids take over, and it's really fun to see everything that they've been doing. So get involved, share content, give us articles. We would love to feature some of that too, especially when it comes to decorating, because I think it's a side of the industry that a lot of promotional products people know, but not enough, and not enough know how to do it well. It's an art form for sure.
Well, I have to say, when I was on the website, I saw the editorial thing and I was like, oh boy, I wish I hadn't seen that. I write.
We're glad you did, so please.
So I'm like, And I have a couple. First thing I need to say here, somebody has shown up as Facebook user. If you've shown up as Facebook user, go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give them permission to show us your name, because somebody said, I need that umbrella. It is a very cute umbrella.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sublimated. There
and then they asked, same Facebook user, do you have a link you can share here with us? If you're talking about Promo Kitchen, that's the link. So definitely go check that out. And please do go to streamyard.com/Facebook so we can see who's talking to us, because we like that when we can see names. Let's see. And I'm trying to, one of the fun things of producing and running the show is sometimes I'm playing with things. Oh, it's my buddy Carolyn Cagle, I'm assuming. Hi, Carolyn. Thanks for joining us. And Carolyn would be someone who would really just crave that umbrella. She's probably coming up with a coat with that design right now. She does amazing embroidered coats. But okay, so Promo Kitchen was the one thing that I definitely wanted to talk to you about, and the whole mentoring thing. But the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is I had heard about the Badass Women in Promo podcast kind of peripherally, and then I didn't know it was yours. So I was like, oh, wow, this is Charity's, cool. So I went and listened to some of them, and they're very cool. I haven't made it through them all yet, but I did listen to the How to Be a Badass one. I told you that before we started. But I got to ask, first of all, where did that name come from?
Well, okay, so the podcast itself, oh gosh, this is a long story. I'll try to make it short. First and foremost, I think I mentioned earlier, when I grow up, I want to be a public speaker. But I didn't feel like my story was worth telling. I'm like, I'm still writing my story. I don't even know what to say. There are so many other people that have such a better story to tell. It's like, okay, great. She grew up homeless and now she is successful. Yay. Like, I don't know. I know that there's value in there. So I know everybody's like,
there's like a lot of stuff.
There's so much. Yeah. No, there is. And everybody's like, don't, denigrate your value. I'm like, I'm not. I just don't know. I don't know. So there was that. The second part was Shannon Laredo. We have a couple groups on Facebook. We have the Women's Leadership Conference through PPAI that women can come to each year. And so if you attend the conference or have interest in it, we have the PPAI Women's Leadership Conference group. And then we also have another group on Facebook called Be Powerful Promo Women. So if you search for that, you can join it. And in that group, Shannon Laredo posted, we all know Bill Petrie and Kirby Hasseman and all of the male influencers and bloggers and podcasters in the industry. Who are the women? And
I love
nobody
that.
really said anything, right? And I was like, well, some people kind of listen to me sometimes. So like me, I guess. But I said, you know what? I would love to change that. So let's start something where we can start, telling our stories, because you're absolutely right. There's so many fantastic women in this industry. And Mark Graham actually uses the word badass a lot. He's like, badass, that's badass. And so I don't know, that night I'm like, I'm just going to create a podcast. And so I created the website. I'm like, what am I going to call this thing? I'm like, okay, women. And it just came to me, the whole Badass Women Promo. But what I loved was the idea that we're all badasses. We really are. And I know, even though sometimes I'm like, my story, but it's fun because now that I'm telling my story, it's giving women like, you and all the different guests that come on permission to share their story. And that's relatable. I love that Brian Fanzo says, people can relate to your mess more than they can relate to your success. And so, no, we don't have to have it all figured out. It's such a farce to think that, like, just because, you hear my name everywhere, that I'm like suddenly, some superwoman and I have it all together. I told Chris earlier, like, I'm wearing dinosaur pajama pants right now. Like, welcome to Zoom 2021, like Zoom on the top and party on the bottom. So, I think it's just embracing that and helping people do that. So I don't know where the name came from, but it's just been so much fun to not only me pick women and bring them on and share their stories, because I find their stories interesting and I'm excited to tell the world about them. But I love that I also somehow, it came to me to have other people nominate women as a Badass Women of Promo.
I saw that.
So badasswomenofpromo.com, you can click the nominate tab and tell us why you think somebody should be a badass. And the thing I love about it most, we just passed 100 nominations. And I love reading the stories about why this
Mhm.
person was nominated and how they lead with grace, and just hearing, I like, sometimes I actually cry, like, oh my gosh, this is the sweetest story ever. Like, yes, please come on the podcast. I want, like, and I
Mhm.
handwrite a note to everybody that gets nominated, and if they come on the podcast, you get a little box of goodies. But it is the coolest thing to let people know that somebody that they know, look up to, and admire thinks of them in such high regard. And it is just heartwarming. Sometimes I think women, we think of each other as being catty sometimes, or two-faced, and I've always hung with the men for that purpose. Like, I'm a dude, I'm a bro. I will drink beer, I will tell the bad jokes, like, it's terrible. But there are so many people in the promotional products industry, and every woman that I've met, I'm like, when we realize that we're out here to collaborate, and that, you know, it's not about competing with each other, it's competing with ourselves. And when people know that that's what you stand for, it empowers them to just find that sparkle in themselves, and they can just shine even brighter. And that's what I have loved, an unintended byproduct that I had no idea would happen, of building this podcast. So it's an honor to be able to just, you know, help these women tell their story. Somehow I've been given a stage and a spotlight. Mark Graham has a lot to do with that. He shared his spotlight and his stage with me, and I just am super honored and blessed to be able to pay that forward to other people as well.
Well, you said so many things that in what you just said that I want to unpick, that I don't even really know where to start. But I think the first thing that I want to start with is, I like the whole nomination idea. And I think you're right that often women undervalue what they do, and they don't realize the impact that they're having on others. And I just got to pop in here real quick. Yes, Carolyn, we can see you now. You know who you are. So I want to talk about that for a second, because I didn't do a formal nomination, but I went into the Women in Garment Decoration group and I said, hey, who should I be asking to be on Women in Business? And it was really interesting, the breadth of nominations that I got. And then I contacted some of those people and they said, wow, I can't believe somebody thought I was worth being on, you know? And so you said you've gotten over 100 nominations. Now, I have to confess, I knew most of the company names from a lot of the women that you had already interviewed. I didn't know them. So I think you made a really good point, and it's something that I'm pretty passionate about too. We need to get more women, get their faces, get their voices, get their stories out, because we do see the same old, mostly old, mostly white guys.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I'm not, you know, but there is more room at the table. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not less men, it's just more women. Like, raise your hand, ladies, because you have a story to tell, and you share it with compassion and passion. And, you know, people are like, well, why aren't more women, you know, in these companies, in these positions, on these podcasts? I'm like, all you have to do, nobody gave me permission. I took it. I just said, I'm starting a podcast. I did it, just like you. This here, I love it. You are a badass woman and doing amazing things to share your spotlight. And you said it earlier too. You're like, this isn't about me. And it's like, but it is. The fun thing about me helping other people tell their stories is that the story that I was trying to figure out how to tell suddenly just shows up. And it's like, okay, I get to, you know, as a byproduct, tell my story too. And you become part of my story. That's the better part, is why just not just my story now, it's our story. And I love that we get to, there's power in numbers. So absolutely.
Well, and I think that's, you know, one of the things that I've had the discussion about a couple of times is the whole, I'm not saying that, you know, the Terry Combs and the Jay Bassells and the Mark Cordries and the other guys that are out there that are speaking a lot, and you see on a lot of the panels, and you see, you know, doing a lot of the trade show conferences. I'm not saying any of those guys are bad, or that I want to take their job necessarily, but I want more female voices out there. And so I think things like Badass Women of Promo and this show and Women in Garment Decoration and all that kind of stuff are kind of encouraging women to realize, number one, they have a story,
Mm-hmm.
and that their story can help other people and that it's worth telling, which I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest disservices, this is my opinion, but one of the biggest disservices that we do women is that we tell them to be quiet a lot. That's my theory. And I want more women to speak up. So
Yeah.
I guess I am a badass woman.
You are. You absolutely are. And I think there's some interesting things that you said along with that. So it's, and again, it is, women are often told, just shush for now or something like that. But it's also not just women. Think about how we're conditioned. And this can go, I could go way deep into psychology. I'm not going to do that if anybody wants to chat offline about that. But think about how we're raised as children. Sit in class, be quiet,
Mm-hmm.
there's don't talk to strangers, whatever. And no, we probably shouldn't when we're 7 years old, but it's way different when you get into the business marketplace and you're told
Mm-hmm.
to network. So now your entire life you've been told, be quiet, don't talk unless you've been talked to, don't talk to strangers. And it's like, okay, go make friends, go into this thing
Yeah.
and introduce yourself and it's like, I don't know how, and my story
Yeah.
is, I moved 21 times in 20 years. I was in a new school. I went to
Oh
four
my
different
goodness.
schools for second grade alone. So, I didn't always have a ton of friends, but I did always have to introduce myself. Every time I started a new school, I was like, hi, my name's Charity. Or actually, I changed my name a number of times. I was Cassie in one place, was Angie. That ended up being interesting really later on in life when people from a school ended up at a different school and they're chasing me down the hall. They're like, Angie. I'm like, who is yelling for Angie? I'm like, I'm Angie. That was fun. But that to me, I know a lot of people are like, oh gosh, how unfortunate you moved 21 times in 20 years. And I think about the fact that I can come on camera with somebody I've never met in person and we're talking like we're best friends. You don't get to do that if you follow the rules of, convention and how, and are raised the way everybody else is raised. And so I would just tell parents even to be mindful, whether you're raising a son or a daughter, doesn't matter. Don't teach them to not talk to strangers. Tell them how to do it correctly and what to look out for
Right.
and, when
Right.
it's appropriate and what to say. We're raising little leaders. And so equip the future of promo and future of business well by giving them those skills when they are young. And that will help, I think, all business professionals, but especially women, just allowing us to find our voice and telling us it's okay to use it. So no, I totally agree. And going back to something you said too, optics. That was actually one of the things that I noticed when Marshall started doing Shirt Lab, and he's been pretty good about it because I asked him, right up front. And a lot of the things that I've seen, especially in garment decoration, is that all of these conferences pop up and all of the little dots of who's speaking, they're all male. I'm like, do you have women that speak in this side? I'm like, I've been in, garment decoration by way of promotional products now for 20 years. And, I'm just now getting into, obviously into the groups and a little bit more networked into this space in particular. And it's fascinating to me. But I am learning that there are a lot of, obviously by being in the group, there are a lot of women and you guys work hard and women are crushing it. But I think that might also be part of it too, is like, we're almost too busy to raise our hands sometimes. We're almost too busy to tell our stories because, we work hard. Yeah.
And I think also there's a lot of the speaking opportunities you have to put yourself forward to do. And a lot of, because I know I've encouraged some women who've actually gone on and done it at various shows or whatever. And their first response when I say, well, you should do this, a lot, you could do this. And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm not really an expert. I'm not really, or the other thing is I did a podcast with a woman last week who did a great show. She has 3 daughters that she's raising to be total badasses. And we did a great conversation on how to raise badass women, basically. And when I asked her, she was kind of like, well, I don't know what I talk about and I'm not really sure. And she told me afterwards, I was terrified the whole time. And I was like, but you did it and you were awesome. And you said so much good stuff, and it's, and I have comments here and there's just,
I love it.
oh, I like this. Carolyn says buffet. Let's get a women buffet of choices for I like that.
That's a great analogy.
And Sandy Jo says, love the name Badass Women. That name says so much. I like that. Ghosta says, the best managers I have had over the years have been women, only one exception in 40 years. So I think that's great too. It is, because I think the thing that the message that I keep trying to get across is that you don't have to know everything. I mean, the first time I ever did a seminar, I had been anti-public speaking for years. I was shy. I was terrified. I didn't want to do it. And somebody, Scott Ritter actually from the DAX show, came to me and said, I think you can do this. And I went, I don't know. Okay, I'll try it. And literally the only thing that saved me the first seminar is the room that I did the seminar in happened to have a podium. And I stood behind the podium and held on. And that was about the only thing that was keeping my knees from just going.
Right. But you did it.
But I did it. And now I love it. I love it. And I love talking to people. I love seeing people get what I'm telling them. I love doing this. I actually like being the person asking the questions more than I like being the person answering, which I did not know until I started doing this.
Yeah. So. Well, I think there's a couple different things. So I immediately think of, is it the Van Gogh that says, if there's a voice inside you that says you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. The minute that you do something that your inner voice tells you you can't do, you just proved them wrong. So tell that inner voice to shut up. Do it anyway. If you want to try it, even if you're scared, do it scared. That's fine. The second thing I would say is if you feel like you don't know a lot or you don't have a whole lot to offer, you know more than you think you know. It's just, it takes sometimes someone asking. So if somebody asks you to speak, remember, it's your stage. You own that stage. If you're not comfortable getting up and giving a keynote, just me talking to the whole world, that's fine. And say, can I bring somebody with me? I'd love to bring a moderator and do it as a Q&A instead. Good. Do it that way. I'm going to bring Christine on here and we're going to have this conversation. This is still a keynote. This is still delivering knowledge bombs and still sharing wisdom. Just sometimes I need people to pry stuff out of me. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. I don't know what I actually do know sometimes. And if you ask a question, I can form an answer. If you tell me to talk, I'd be like, I like potatoes. I just like, I don't know. So, I really do love potatoes.
French fries.
Yes, but that's a big thing too, is realize speaking on a stage or in a webinar or whatever, it doesn't look like how everybody always does it. It can look like however you are comfortable creating that piece of content. So do it your way, but just do it, and yes, it's going to be scary, but once you do it one time, everything else becomes
fun. Then you're like,
hey, conversation.
I didn't stumble over my words and I didn't, snort when I laughed and I didn't do. But the other part of this too, and one of the things, because I did, this is a year, 2 years ago or something, I asked the question on social media, why aren't there more women speaking at trade shows specifically? And I was thinking the promo shows and the NBM shows, the ISS shows, the DAX shows, those kind of shows. And I really put it to the people who run the shows, why aren't there? And the answer I got was because women don't ask us.
Yeah.
And true. I think that's part of it too, is that if you see a podcast you'd like to be on, if you see a show that you'd like to be part of, if you want to be on this show, if you want to do, whatever it is, you sometimes have to step up and say, I think I can, I have an idea for this. I want to talk to you about it. I want to see if this is something we can do. Because I think for a lot of women, and I know this was me back in the day before I became badass, I waited for people to come to me, because to me that meant they already thought I was good.
Right.
So, they wanted me, and that was somehow like validation for, yes, you may speak. And then I was like, you know what? You've never met me before today, so you don't know this, but I have a tendency to say naughty words, which I'm really trying not to do right now. But basically I said, F this, for lack of a better word. And I started just going, if nobody else wants to hear me talk, I'm going to make my own thing.
Yeah. No,
And,
it's true.
you know, and it's a thing that I feel can benefit other people. But, you know, there wasn't anybody coming to me saying, hey, you want to do a podcast? So I said, well, okay, I'll do my own.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love that you took the initiative to do it. Of course, a lot like me in a way, right? It's like nobody was coming to ask me, so I'm going to go ask other people. And I do want people to have that special feeling like I'm coming to you. But I love it when people also introduce themselves to me, because I also believe you can have the best pizza on the planet, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to sell any of it. Just because even if you have years and years of experience, and I'm pretty well known, you know, across a number of industries internationally, but not everybody knows me. Not everybody's heard me speak. So if I want to get on some podcast, be like, well, haven't you heard of me? I'm sorry, Google me. Like, no, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. Like, we got to stay humble about it too. Like, most people don't know who we are, you know, maybe 500 people, 600 people out of the entire population. Yeah, introduce yourself, go for no. And the worst thing that somebody can say is not right now. No, we don't want to hear that. Come back later. No, not at all. But you know what? The best thing we can say is yes. And it can turn into something, you know, beautiful and amazing. And it helps other people as well. Like it, you know, if you have a story to tell, definitely, if nobody's giving you a silver platter to tell it, then yeah, definitely pull up your own chair, make your own seat at the table. You know, give yourself your own platform. And I think that there's no better time than right now to do it. There's never been a better time to be a woman in any industry, with everything that's happening in the, you know, political climate, you know, socio-geographical, internet connections, the availability of blog posts, and, you know, 99 cents to buy a URL, Facebook, social media. There are so many ways to tell your story. I mean, the difficult part becomes obviously standing out from the noise, but I would say too, focus in on your niche. Not everybody needs to know you. The right people need to hear your story, and it's going to resonate with the people that need to hear it. So,
well, and I think you just made a really good point that you have to pick something that you care about, because if, you know, like with this podcast, I was like, okay, I want to learn something, but I also care about advancing women in this industry in general. So how can I do that? Well, let's talk to women who are doing great things, and then we can learn from those lessons. So that was kind of the point. And I think Your Badass Women is the same thing. I saw the one, I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I saw the one you did about parenting during a pandemic. And I loved that so much. As soon as I saw that, I went, yes, this woman is a kindred spirit. I want to go have a drink with her somewhere and just talk, because that's the kind of stuff that needs to be out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you saying that so much. That was a fun and a tough one to do, you know, and that's the thing. Women are faced with a lot of issues. Yeah, it's work, and how do we have a successful career and, you know, make money, hold a job, build our business, and oh, by the way, raise kids, deal with decisions on, are we sending them to school in the middle of a pandemic? And if we don't, what are we going to do with the fact that there's a wall separating us, and now we're on Zoom and we're sharing internet connections, and gosh, it's just compounded and complicated. And, you know, we have, I mean, women, I mean, everybody has enough problems as it is, but put all those things together and it's like, am I alone in this? Because sometimes I just feel alone. And sometimes that's the best thing that just getting on these podcasts and listening in can give us, is the fact that maybe I don't have all the answers, but at least I have a friend or someone that at least knows what I'm going through and can empathize with me. So sometimes that's just a game changer. Like, someone else is dealing with this too. So.
Well, and I think if you know that other people, at least I've found, if you know that other people are having the same emotions or the same concerns or the same sad thoughts or angry thoughts or happy thoughts or whatever, it's like, it's not just me, you know, I'm not just crazy. But I like this comment from Missy I wanted to share, if I can hit that. Love the phrase, go for no. That's the worst thing that can happen. And I think no is something that we give a lot of power to. And all it really means is this opportunity isn't the one.
Yeah.
But right now. I mean, I've had people tell me no, and then I circle back later, and the circumstances are different, and it's not a no anymore.
Yeah.
But there's so many things I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to sort it out in my head. But one of the things, because honestly, I didn't know much of your story, so I didn't know the stuff about the, moving 21 times in 20 years, or 20 times in 20, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And I've found, now that I know that, I want to ask you this question because it's something that I've found has been helpful. Yeah. I had a childhood not in the same way as yours, but I had a childhood that was pretty traumatic. I went through a bunch of stuff that anybody who's watched this podcast knows. But I found that taking some of those incidents that were very traumatic and sharing what I've learned from them and trying to help people understand how they can recover from stuff like that has been helpful for me. Has that been something that you've worked on as well, or done as well?
Yeah. Somehow I serendipitously, that's probably not how it happened, but in my mind, I just was connected to the right people. You mentioned mentorship, and it's so funny because I was in marching band and in junior high, and our band director took us to some leadership seminar. And actually going back even further than that, in fourth grade, the school system brought in this leadership development thing that gave us these little patches that says, I'm cool. And they taught us that we are in control of our own lives. And so regardless of the circumstances that happen to us, we are responsible for how we respond and how we act moving forward. Of course, I didn't realize I was poor. I didn't realize that, other people had homes. Like, I didn't understand, like, being homeless and bouncing around from place to place. That was my normal. So I didn't realize how weird it was until I got older. And I'm like, oh, that's not everybody has that life. That's how funny.
Right.
But there are obvious things that, psychologically, either certain things did not develop the right way, or I wasn't, it was not the right way. It was just a different way. So other children had different experiences that I was lacking or had to catch up to, or just didn't experience or didn't know about. And so, yeah, there has been a lot of awareness, I would say, and things that I didn't know, stories that I was telling myself. And I hired a coach, Jamie Amidon is her name. And she had the thing called Decide to Fly. And I went to this big leadership workshop, and she was on stage, and she called us to action to join her one-on-one coaching. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. It was $600 back then, and that was a lot of money. But it still is a lot of money. But I just think of, like, I was so hesitant to do it. And when I walked in, I think I was like mad about the money anyway. I had a chip on my shoulder, and I wanted to be there, but learning and changing and growing, facing all of the things about yourself that need to be faced in order to grow, that's not fun either. And so we sat down, and the first thing she does is pull out this book, and it's called the Grief Recovery Handbook. And I'm like, I paid for life coaching, and so nobody died. And so, I mean, really? And she's like, okay, so here we are. She's like, we'll talk about it in a minute. I'm like, okay, fine. So now there's this 5 people, there's 6 of us total. And she said by our 30th birthdays, we've sustained up to 40 losses in our life. And that could be the loss of an ideal, something we expected to have happen and it didn't. It could be the loss of a person, the loss of a pet. It could be the loss of an experience where we had something happen and it stopped, so we lost a job. The experience changed, just chapters and seasons of our lives came to an end. And there's a grief process associated with all of that. And if you don't learn what that loss was, what pain it's causing you, and how to complete it, then you continue to keep your hand on that prison bar of the past. And every time you make progress, it's like a rubber band, and it just slingshots you backwards. So you have to learn how to cut the rubber band and complete that loss. So recognize the grief, recognize your ownership in the responsibility, which does not mean you're taking the blame. It means you are taking the ability to respond, and you're empowering yourself to recognize the loss, grieve the loss, and move past it. And that book And that day and that 6 weeks and that $600 changed my entire life. The one thing I got from it was quit telling yourself stories that no longer serve you, and everything is a story. From the reason that the guy cut you off on the freeway to the reason that you were late for that meeting, every single thing is a story. When you start changing your stories, you change your life. And so I tell everybody about that book. And I tell everybody about my story and what happened. I think a lot of people are ashamed to tell their stories because somehow they feel like it's their fault, depending on what happened. And I think that was the benefit of all of the circumstances that led me to where I was in life. And I don't know how I got there. I don't know how I was put in those places at those moments to meet these people and to have these collision opportunities. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's the one beautiful thing that we get from our stories is the experience and the opportunity to share those stories to either prevent somebody from going through the same thing that we went through, or to help someone through it, faster and with less scarring, and and to be less alone while going through it as well. So that's a lot of words, but hopefully that helped.
Well, no, I think, first of all, that is one I hadn't heard before, is the whole concept of you have to grieve the losses. I had not heard that. And now in my head, there's a little thing going, oh, holy shit, that's so right. And, so I got to think about that one a little bit. But I want to center for a minute on the whole concept of talking about your experiences, and most people aren't comfortable doing that. I mean, since I've had this show, I have done podcasts on chronic illness, mental illness, sexual abuse, all things that have been part of my life. And I've made the conscious decision that I was not going to be ashamed of any of that. That there are people out there who aren't talking about these things, particularly in the area of sexual abuse. Don't even get me started on that one. There are people who are told, don't talk about it, that it's something that you should hide. And I'm like, no, it's part of your life. And if it taught you something and you can help others, why wouldn't you talk about it? So I guess, have you always been open about your story, or is that something that you learned to do as you got older?
You.
What? Did you lose me? Uh-oh. What happened? I think she froze up.
I'm back.
Oh, there you are. Okay, yeah. I'm here.
I got to have you always been open. I'm assuming.
Okay, have you been open about your story and what happened to you in your life always, or is this something that you learned over time?
No, I have always been open with it. And I don't know why, but I also know that I definitely respect people that are not there yet, that are not to the place where they want to share. They don't feel comfortable with it. Only because, again, I don't know why. And it's the same thing with promo, with everything. I talk about finances. I talk about weight loss. I actually put on my LinkedIn the other day. I went through this crazy thing. A couple weeks. I had 8 friends pass away in a 6-month period of time, between COVID, suicide, cancer, and I just got to the point a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm a high performer. I run 2 different companies and podcasts, national account coordinator. I'm doing speaking engagements and everything. I'm raising a kid. I'm a single mom, like dealing with a fiance and then a new puppy, and my mom's aging. And so trying, like all of these things. And then I got the word that another friend passed away, and I was just like, I'm done. And I sat on my couch for 3 days and I did not move, and I didn't want to do anything. I'm like, what is going on here? And I wrote a blog about it on my LinkedIn. And you guys or actually think you can also find it on charityg.com. But I was not okay. And it took a lot, and it was scary to put that blog out there. Mm-hmm. But I think, not everybody has to tell their story, but thank goodness that some people do, only because it lets people know that, again, they're not alone. It lets people know that there is a way out of it. My daughter said, it was kind of interesting because it's frustrating, with COVID, and she's been at home now for almost a year, and she's an only child for all accounts. I have an older son, but he's out of the house. And so she gets frustrated and she's getting, quote unquote depressed. And I said something like, you have to get up, you have to get out of bed, like go exercise, do things. And she's like, Mom, I don't think you understand how depression works. And I was like, okay. And I tried to explain to her, I said, I get where you might think that because you always see me doing and you see me laughing and you see me telling stories and being positive. But there's a reason that it's called fighting depression. And I don't have, deep, dark depression because I know that it can be absolutely debilitating. But situationally, I know that, there are things that get me down. And in that moment, I was down. But again, that's why they call it fighting depression. But if you don't hear that and you don't have those people telling that story and you don't know that people are fighting those battles with you or having those bad days too, especially in the age of influencers, people see me as like, oh, Sally Sunshine, Charity's always happy and always positive and always, always, always. One, that's a lot of pressure on me because let me tell you, I'm not always. Like my family will tell you, I don't like mess. So if something gets messy, I am not happy. But I do have, again, by some stroke of whatever, and the things that have been put in my life and the situations that I've been placed in and the people that have been put there, I've been given the tools to learn how to reframe situations. So no, not everything is fantastic, but it is what we make it. And we have the opportunity, and more so we have the ability to respond to the responsibility to take that control back and to direct our lives. Because I believe if we don't create our own challenges in our life, life creates them for us. And so we might as well,
I like that.
We can't control everything, but we can do some work to kind of control at least the direction that we're hoping to run. And so there's a lot there, and I could go on, a lot, but I just study human behavior, learn what drives people to make decisions, understand that psychology plays a role in everything that we do. And in business, it's huge in business. And high performers have learned, I think, a little bit about how to conquer that. They're constantly examining and evaluating and reaching to learn more and connect with more people that have been through their struggles again, so they can go farther faster because they're going together with other people that have been there and know where they want to go and hopefully are where they're going and can help them get there. I hope that wraps it up a little bit. That's a lot of words.
Well, I got a couple more comments here I want to share. Ghosta says, so powerful. Thanks, Charity. And I like this from Cindy. All our experiences build our characters. I think that's true. And I had a really good question, and oh man, see, sometimes I need to write these things down because somewhere in the middle of going, oh look, comments, I'm like, it was something to do with when you were, the whole depression thing. I think one of the things that people don't get sometimes is, like you said, you had a time period where you lost a lot of friends and you just hit your point where you were like, that's it, I'm out. And I had the same thing. I quit my job because I had to stay home and I couldn't work it out with the company, and it was rather unexpected and not fun. And then my aunt, who is my second mother, died, and I just went, yep, my brain's gone silent now. But I think we tend to think there's something wrong with taking a few days to regroup.
Right. And there's not at all. Yeah.
No. I mean, sometimes you just have to go, you know what? I've reached my limit for this period of time and I need to take a day. And as someone who deals with depression and has been diagnosed with it, I can also say one of the things you learn when you have depression is figuring out when you're really depressed and when you're just the weight of life or circumstances or whatever has just put you out of the game for a day or two. Right. You get smart about, and you also, I think, because you have to manage it, get smart about what you need to be at optimal effectiveness, I guess, for lack of a better word. You have to, that's one of the things that it's another message that I try to push home with people a lot is you need to take care of yourself. So you need to do what, like you said, you needed a couple days to just go, yep, I'm done. I'm going to sit on my couch with a fuzzy blankie and watch Netflix and do whatever until I get to the point where I can deal with stuff again. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Yeah. Well, you said a couple things. You're right. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think one of the things that we We should all over ourselves. And I say that because
Yes.
we see other people doing things, we should do that too. Oh, we should work 8 to 5, or we should have this much business coming in, or we should be doing this, we should be doing that. We shouldn't really be doing anything. We've let other people dictate what the playbook should be looking like, when really none of us actually knows what we're doing anyway. We're just kind of going through the motions and following the leader and hoping that it's the right thing to do. You know, in a lot of ways, I'm like, I even look at American culture versus, and Gusto can probably talk to this, like American culture versus like New Zealand, or, you know, Italy, all of these different cultures that have such a huge value. If you watch Emily in Paris, it's like there's such this, you know, we romanticize busyness and work and really, you know, champion that here, when in other cultures, it's just not a thing. So stop shooting all over yourself. The only thing that you should be doing is exactly what you need to be doing, you know, and what is going to make you feel fulfilled. And that's different for everybody. We all have different bias, different experience. We've all had different, you know, what's right for me makes sense to me because these are the experiences that I've had to this point. But if you experience something different, you're going to have a different belief system. You're going to have a different understanding of things. And that's right for you. And then the second or third or 27th point, because I talk a lot. I don't know where I am exactly at this moment. I was thinking about French fries actually a few hours, 40 minutes ago. We talked about that, and that's where I am. But the other thing I also want to say is there's something to be said about not being in a place of operating in our unique genius. And because I know we have industry people on here, we've got solo entrepreneurs and business owners, I really hope that you hear me when I say this. The last couple years, yes, I'm stressed out, and yes, I have a lot going on. But the best part of the last couple years of my life is that even though I'm tired because I'm exhausted from just doing all the time, the best part is I never get burnt out because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. Because everything that I have done to this point, I've put myself in the place to do what I do best. And I know what I do better than anybody else. And I stick in that area of unique genius where I am operating in that zone all the time. And so I learned a long time ago when I was a promotional products distributor that I'm not an admin person. I am a marketer. I am a salesperson, but I hate paperwork. And as a solo entrepreneur, I was running this promotional products distributor company. And I had been given the skills from my previous boss to know how to go and prospect, to run the CRM, to do the artwork and get camera ready, art ready, to do the virtual proofs, to put the presentation together, to put the order in, to do the production control, to get it through to the accounting, and then to do the collection. We knew how to do every step of the way. And in that business and in that job, I was hired to do every step of that process. When I went out on my own, I immediately thought I had to do every step of that process because I didn't know how to hire either, because that's messy. And I'm not making enough money at that point in time to be like, I'm just going to pay somebody $65,000. Like, I don't have that as a brand new business. And so I felt like I had to do it all on my own. And it got exhausting because I'm like, oh, gotta do this quote again. Cool. Gotta follow up on the order. Can you tell me when this product is going to ship, please? PO number. Like, oh my gosh. And so the fun thing about leaving that space, my business partner leaving was devastating to me. But it was also one of the best things that ever happened, in the sense that, again, when you take responsibility for the circumstances, it could be devastating and I could live there and it was the worst thing that ever happened and I could be a complete failure for the rest of my life because of that situation. Or I can take the necessary steps and look back and say, her leaving was the best thing that ever happened because it forced me to call Mark Graham and have the conversation with him and ask my mentor, hey, what the heck should I do right now? Like, should I keep my distributor company and continue to try to force myself through these motions and hire people I hate hiring? I don't like managing. Like, should I do that? He's like, just do Facebook for a living. I'm like, Mark Graham, who on earth is going to pay me to play on Facebook all day? He's like, I know some people. And then he connected me. And now my whole business has been built around playing on Facebook for people. Not really. I mean, it's a lot more than that, but that's what I really enjoy doing and talking to people. And so this is what I have made my career out of, is operating in that place of unique genius. And so I say all of that because when you're not doing that, that's when you get burnt out and that's when you're not feeling fulfilled. And that's what leads to the depressed state, because it's like you want to wake up and be excited about the day, and you wake up and you're like, follow up on all those stupid POs again. Like that's, that was my mindset. So we have a unique opportunity in 2021 where there are things called virtual assistants. Hiring is probably, maybe you don't have the capital necessary to hire somebody full-time, but maybe there are some things that you can outsource. And thankfully with the internet and the opportunities that we have to collaborate with other people and the openness, like people like you, they're putting themselves out there and saying, I want to go with somebody together. I want to go farther. I want to go faster. Who wants to link arms and go with me? What piece of the puzzle can I do so that you can do your piece of the puzzle better? And then I'll share your piece of the puzzle in my business, and I'll give you this piece of the puzzle in your business. And all of a sudden there's this like symbiotic, wonderful thing that happens. Everybody operates in their unique genius. Profits get bigger, people get happier, things start growing, and it's magic. But it takes recognizing and understanding that if paperwork is not your thing, then stop doing it and figure out a way. You have the capability, you might not know it, but you do. And if you don't, you have a resource. Anybody watching this right now has people they can reach out to and say, I don't know how to do it, but I know that I need it. Please help. And the best, most successful people that I know in the whole world are the people that have taken the time to say, yeah, absolutely. What do you need? Lift as you climb. I'll help you. Anything that you need, I'll take care of it. Like the most successful people that I know are the most willing to help others in their journey.
Oh, I agree.
Hopefully that brings it full circle, from depression to back to business, because it all, I like to say there's no work-life balance. It's life. And I just try to enjoy living it as best I can. But that means life, life is work, life is life is this every day. And we have to figure out a way to have all of that live in harmony with each other.
I agree with you on that. And I think one of the things that you said that I really liked is finding people who complement you in, what you like to do. They like to do something different, but it's a piece that you need. And I think one of the greatest things that I've seen is the communities that are starting to come together where people are doing exactly that. And everybody, Erin Montgomery says all the time, a rising tide lifts all boats. And same theory, it's, if we can figure out how to work together, we're all going to benefit. And I think that's so important. And it's the same thing with what Women in Garment Decoration is trying to do, which is let's get women to form a community and help raise each other up, each other's profiles, each other's businesses, each other's profits, not because we want women to take over the world or anything, but just
be a bad thing. But
no, it wouldn't be a bad thing. But I mean, just because, I've said this before, and it's one of my, I wouldn't say it's a perennial rant, but I love this. I got to put this comment up. Sorry. I see a comment and I go, I was on my way out the door when I started listening. I stopped and sat down to listen and am so very glad I did. Thank you, Martha. You have made my day.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here. And now I'm completely off my topic.
I got you. Women coming together, rising tide lifts all boats, and just collaboration.
Tide lifts all boats, women coming together. And I think what we need to do is just work on doing that for everybody. So you find the people that do. I tend to be one of those people, I'm working on it, but I tend to be one of those people who think that I have this image that I have to maintain. Like you said earlier, that people see you and they think you're so bubbly and so positive all the time. I have something similar, and I get very kind of worried about that. That's kind of why I deliberately go out and do some of the stuff that I've done, is to say I'm not like that. It takes the pressure off. Yeah, tell the whole story and deal with your strengths and your weaknesses, which, and I hate to say it, but we're on a little bit of bonus time now. And this has been beyond amazing. I'm so grateful that you came and talked with me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to have to watch this again to catch all the bits that I missed, but thank you so much. This was really amazing.
No, thank you so much. I guess the last thought that I would leave you with, just to finish up what you were saying, was, realizing that the collaboration that can happen. Two things. I think I don't understand that people can enjoy paperwork. I don't understand and comprehend the side of the personality that I don't have, but recognizing that you're not a burden to somebody because you don't enjoy that. There are people out there with complementary strengths and skills that it would make their day to be able to serve you and for you to serve them with your complementary skill sets. And to illustrate that point, there's one last quote that I'll leave you with. And when my kids were little, they used to watch a show on Disney called JoJo the Clown, or JoJo Circus. And there's this little JoJo, and she was a clown, and she said at the end of the thing, like the thing had fallen and somebody's putting up the circus lights and another person's like reining in the elephants, and somebody's like, thank you, JoJo, so much. And she's like, that's okay. Each of us can do something so that together we can do all things. And that has been a quote that I have lived with, you know, for a long time now, realizing that just because it's not my strength doesn't mean that it's not somebody's strength. And, you know, definitely look for ways that your strength can complement somebody else's weakness. And not even a weakness, limitations, because they're not weaknesses. It's just places we have chosen not to grow. So just make yourself aware of what your unique genius looks like, and then find other people to help you fill in the gaps.
I love it. I love it. And now I want a shirt with that quote on it. So
I think you know someone that can make that happen.
Well, that's part of the problem with knowing all the people that I know is I get this thing and I go, I want a shirt with that. And then I'm like, yeah, I know too many people. Who do I ask? But I love it. Anyway, thank you so, so much. I appreciate it very, very much. And I don't even know what to say. You were amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. And you are a badass. That's what I'll say.
Woohoo! I like it. All right. I'm going to pop you out and say goodbye. And thank you very much. All right. That was so amazing. I loved it. She had so much good stuff to say. And I'm so excited. I love it when I do one and when we do a show and I think, yay, that really had a lot of stuff to help people. So I'm a little giddy right now. I'll get over it. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being the badass men and women that you are. I'm just really excited that you are all here today. I think we had a great show. Next week, February 3rd, we will be talking to Lisa Shaw from Soap Bubbles Menagerie, and I'm looking forward to that because I wanted to have her on the show for a really long time. So I will see you all next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and thank you all for being here today, and thank you so much to Charity. She was amazing. Bye, everybody. See you next week.